Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second Mindful Observation Workshop, which is presented as part of the Nasher's Art and Health series. I'm Curator of Education, Anna Smith, and our presenter today is Bonnie Pitman, who is Distinguished Scholar in Residence at the Edith O'Donnell Institute of Art History and Director of Art Brain Innovations for the Center for Brain Health at the University of Texas at Dallas. As the world continues to rage around us, we hope this program will offer you some moments of quiet focus. We'll be thinking today about how art and artists can recall the nurturing relationships that have proven to be so critically important during this time of physical isolation. There will be moments during today's program where we will invite your voices into the conversation, and you will be welcome to contribute by unmuting yourself or by adding comments in the chat. We're so happy to see you all here, and we hope that you'll find meaning in this experience today. So Bonnie, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you this afternoon. And I welcome everybody who joined us from last week to this new mindful observation workshop, now focusing on relationships. I do want to admit that I do have a black eye, and I'm trying to, I tried very hard to address it, but the simple answer is I'm just going to wear my glasses today, so it's not quite so noticeable. Today we're going to go to, and of course the slide did not advance, so we're just taking a pause. I apologize about that. And we're back at the Nasher Garden. That's almost the view I have outside of the boardroom right here at the Nasher. It's a beautiful day, and what we're going to do is discuss two very important topics. The first one is mindful observation, and we will take a moment to get centered and to breathe and to come to a place of calm and well-being and focusing on objects. And then I decided that we should also explore the idea of nurturing relationships. Love, intimacy, and romance and sex are all so important to loving relationships and to your health and well-being. And a successful relationship is something we all cherish, whether it's with your husband or wife or your children, your extended family, your brothers and sisters, and also your many friends. It is a process of being affirmed for yourself and also of being respectful for others. Today we're going to look at three works of art at the Nasher. We're going to look at Brancusi's The Kiss, Pablo Picasso's beautiful portrait of his last wife, Jacqueline Roche, and we're going to look at the immense and powerful Richard Serra. You may say, what do these have to do with relationships, some of them? But that's why we're here today. My dear teacher and best friend is Sharon Salzberg, and Sharon wrote a wonderful account of it. Sharon had is one of my teachers through mindfulness, and she is a special way of describing the importance of mindfulness. It's also true that the Cleveland Clinic research has done, okay, are you hitting it? Okay, yeah. We're having, today is a new issue, but we're having a little difficulty with hitting the little buttons down at the bottom, but I think we're going to be better. That is precise, isn't it? The Cleveland Clinic, each session I'm going to provide you some of the research studies that have gone on, and as you know, they have done, they have a great neuroscience department there, and what they pointed out in their studies is that the importance of mindfulness in your brain is also that it helps with your mental health. It reduces chronic pain, interpersonal relationships are improved. There's so much more that goes on. This is another brain study. There are so many CT scans out there, but I thought this might be interesting to look at this afternoon compared to the last one. The physician who did this is a doctor at the University of Pennsylvania, and he founded the Penn program on mindfulness. Dr. Bain is looking at the activity in your brain. And so you can see under meditating, it is a much more active brain than when we are looking at the baseline. And that he considers to be a very positive thing, because in these functional scans, what it demonstrates is that we are metabolizing glucose and using our brain to its highest potential. And the research here also shows that the gray brain matter that you have in your hair, in our heads, which incorporates all of our neurons, becomes more active. So this is one of the powerful outcomes of meditating. And it's especially important when they do these studies of people who have depression and other mental illnesses. Okay, so it seems that I have to use this. Okay. Mindfulness improves, as we talked about last week, and increases your attention and memory very happily. It increases your sense of creativity, your happiness. I mean, look at that list. Why wouldn't you meditate is what I say. I've been doing it for over 25, almost 35 years, and it has made a huge difference. The question is, how long do I take to meditate? Well, the answer is you can take as few as 10 minutes a day to just center yourself and be calm. The recommendation is 20 minutes a day. People who really do the practice spend a lot longer. As it reduces, it also can reduce or decrease a lot of stress and anxiety. This is why many people got into meditation early on. And it is such a powerful part of the work that's been done. But also, as you can see there, psychological, physical pain, depression, cognitive decline are all improved. Okay. This is we're just letting you enjoy the mail. Okay. All right. We're taking a little pause here. We're not. There's the cursor. You have to have the patience of a saint when you do these PowerPoints on Zoom. New studies on brain research. These are about nurturing relationships. And I just want to point out that beautiful Rosso, sick mother with a sick child. And all of us who have had children or been held by our parents when we've been sick know that there's a connection there that is so powerful. And that is what our brains go into action. They say mothers can distinguish the cries of a baby, which is fascinating to think about. It is wonderfully, it has an impact on your empathy. When you nurture relationships, especially if you can learn to listen with an open heart, not making judgments of the person that you're listening to. It can put compassion into action. You can be the very person who changes a person's day by saying something kind or supportive to them. I love the comment at the bottom of the sort of the summary of this study that emotional connections drive the happiest and healthiest relationships. Just not happy. We're being calm, and I'm just saying nice things. What are some of the benefits of a social relation, of a caring relationship? Well, the first one is social support. And in society today, where there's so much isolation and loneliness, it's the #2 factor that is influencing health problems. Social support is with a family or friends is really, really critical. That another person, you can feel valued for yourself, especially if you practice self-compassion, but the person who is your partner or your friend can also make you feel more valued. It is an opportunity to be caring. And I have to say, that is my favorite part of nurturing relationships. It's making the phone calls, surprising people with gifts. It's that ability to show them physically how I feel. It's also being bigger than yourself. As we know with meditation, it reduces stress. You can live longer, and very importantly, which we're going to talk about a lot next week, you can have fun and fulfillment when you're doing this. health benefits of a caring relationship are equally important. Oh, that's the same slide. Did it not change? Okay. How to nurture relationships. Well, this is I had the great pleasure of knowing Ray Nasher and went to his house many times. And this is what his dining table looked like. There's the Brancusi kiss, which we'll be looking at, and a Picasso pregnant woman. But wow, what a place. I mean, the art was everywhere. And on the table, those are little pre-Columbian figures, I think from Jalisco, but I'm not exactly sure. They're pretty small. How do you nurture a relationship? How do you show you're a good friend or a great husband or parent? Start with appreciation. Start out that everything by saying, I am here to help you. I want to acknowledge what a difference you make in my life. Be respectful. We forget that. I think it's so important for us to remember that. Be accepting. People make mistakes, and you need to allow them to do it as well as allow yourself. Being kind, being compassionate, being forgiving in a relationship, that's really critical because not every day is a perfect day. And the ability to say, things have messed up today, or I lost my temper because my computer went skewy all day, is perfectly okay, as long as you can forgive yourself and forgive your acting out on others. To be an active listener, by that I'm saying, when you are listening to another person, put away your phone, give them their full attention, look them in the eyes and concentrate on the words that they're saying to you. Don't make up their answers before they even ask the question. Just listen. Be generous. Oh my gosh. Be generous of heart and mind and soul, of your physical company. And then you will find that you can cultivate intimacy and interdependence. So now we're getting ready to turn our attention with these key ideas in mind about nurturing relationships to look at the observation techniques needed in mindful observation. Some are very simple. Be present in the moment. Don't be afraid to just take a moment and relax and take a deep breath. When we get to the Picasso slide in just a moment, I'm going to have you do that. But it means you have to stop and steady yourself and say, I am here to look. Breathe slowly. Focus on one thing at a time. Relax and take time to explore. Discover something with all of your senses. When you're in the garden at the Nasher, think about the sounds, whether it's the birds singing or the rushing sounds of the traffic or the planes going overhead. There's a lot of sound out there, including the wind. Connect yourself with your observations and connect yourself with yourself. And consider new possibilities. That's my favorite. Okay, just decided to have a life of its own. We're going, so these are the steps that I've developed for mindful observation, and we're going to use them several times today to build up your vocabulary and your experience with it. First, scan. Just take a few seconds, minute, to look at the whole thing. Enjoy seeing what you're looking at and just try to identify it, but don't try to analyze it. Attending is when you begin to analyze, when you begin to focus in over time and really pay attention. Connecting, I love. That's when you take new ideas that are bouncing through your head and connect them with ideas that you've had before or new information you might learn about the work of art. It's all exciting, and it's making these new connections can make the piece of art really come alive. Transforming, well, transforming is the deepest aspect of mindful observation. It's when you are using your senses and creating a personal response to the work. Many times artists develop that by doing the work of art in many different ways. This first artist that we're going to look at, of course, is Picasso, who is probably one of the most important giants of the 20th century art. He made close to 40,000 pieces during his lifetime. It's an amazing gallery of artworks, from paintings and sculptures, stage settings, lithographs, drawings. He just was prolific. He was creating art all the time. He loved women. There is no question about that. He loved having many affairs and and he had children from different members of this beautiful gallery of women. He also was married only twice. His first marriage was to Olga, and she was in the upper left corner. And his last marriage was to Jacqueline Roche. And she is the subject of this amazing portrait outside of the museum of the Nasher, which we're looking at. They were partners in their lives for 11 years. They met in the 50s, and until his death, Jacqueline was with him. She was the source, I read somewhere, of 400 portraits during that period of time. So he really painted and drew and sculpted her so frequently, and you'll see why in just a moment. They had a wonderful life together. He often called her his greatest muse. They played together, they laughed together. You can see down in the lower center image, Jacqueline with one of her many portraits. And those eyes, I want you to remember those eyes and nose, because they look very similar to the work that we're going to be studying. There was a great sense of adventure in their relationship. And play, as we know, and what we'll be talking about next week, is a very effective tool for keeping relationships fresh and keeping them exciting. It brings joy and gratitude and a lot of fun. Playfulness, and I love this image here of him trying to dance, but in relationships, it is a two-person phenomenon, just like a relationship is. You have to have two people interacting. And playfulness is essential in that the sense of playfulness is essential to be able to play. I regret to tell you that most of us as adults have forgotten how to play. And it's something that is an important factor and for you to keep in mind. So here is the Picasso. This is not the way it's shown in the garden, but at Ray Nasher's home. And you can see other pieces in that garden, but that is the head of a woman that we're going to be looking at today. Just to very quickly remind you, we're going to be scanning, taking a first look, attending, connecting, and transforming. And now we're going to look at the video of Picasso. And as I start the video, I want you to close your eyes, and we're going to take 3 deep breaths. Okay, let's start the video. Open your eyes. One of the things I love about sculptures is walking around and seeing how dramatically they change. Thank you. So it's clear that there are many sides to this, many views to the to the head of a woman. And I think what's interesting to me as you begin to closely examine it, the variations between her hairstyle, in her eyes, in her noses, they come in so many different shapes and forms. And as you begin to attend, I often ask people to focus in on one object, part of the object, just pick one part and really focus in. What I'm hoping some of you focused in on were the eyes. There are 4 eyes on this statue. Unbelievable. And you can only see them if you circumvent the Picasso. You can't really see them. Some of them are completely blocked off from one view to another. This is when you start connecting ideas in your head. It's a very important part of the mindful observation. You see one eye, then you look at the next and you say, oh, that's different than the eye that I just saw. But there are other things that are about this that are different. And we're going to look at them. This is a view of the sculpture from 2 different sides, looking directly on it. One, you can see here, this nose right here is actually that nose right there. And you can see 2 of the eyes. Now what I want you to do, and so yet on this side of the face, there is no eye. Where is that other eye that I showed you? So where's the other eye? So it's a great fun to play with this sculpture. I want to go back, excuse me, 1 image. There it is, 1 image. Nope. That's back there. And one thing that you can do, and I'm hoping the slide is still in the deck, you can put your hand up and cover up the nose of the Picasso on the side you see there to the direct right, left. And all of a sudden that image becomes a full face view of the, versus a profile of one of the profiles. Here is the Picasso, and compared to a drawing he did, a lithograph that he did of Jacqueline, that's over at the Dallas Museum of Art. It's not often on view, but you can see those beautiful eyes and wide open and so expressive, and that amazing nose that she has. And I love the freeness of the drawing down below. This is another piece at the Nasher Sculpture Center that is often on view. It's made out of metal, entirely different material, and it is also the head of the woman, Jacqueline, and you can see it looks very much like the sculpture that we were just looking at outdoors, which is made out of concrete and pebbles that are pushed into the concrete, and then it's burnished off so that you can see the actual figure. These pieces change in color and in relationship as you walk around it. Jacqueline and Picasso had a rich and wonderful life together, and he died during a party. That's what I was reading in the research, and basically having a wonderful time with his friends and family. There are so many works at the Nasher that you can come down and see. Some of them are on view right now, but here are just a few. I think there are almost 8 or 9 works in the Nasher collection, and they're all different, which is really fabulous. This is over at the Dallas Museum of Art. There are 2 paintings on display, and one of them is the Picasso with a guitar right here, and the other one is with the lovers over there. It's one of his earlier relationships, Genevieve, but it shows a lot of the same structure. As we leave the Picasso and Jacqueline's many manifestations of her life, we'll have a wonderful time considering her in the future. I want to remind you very quickly to be present in the moment when you're doing this work. As we begin to move on to Brancusi, to think about how to breathe slowly and focus on one thing. Choose an aspect to explore, take your time, discover with your senses, and very importantly, connect with yourself. That'll be particularly important as we look at Brancusi's work. So Constantin Brancusi has a very, very famous piece here at the Nasher, one that is heralded, I can tell you that, around the world. He was a Romanian artist who loves staying close to his roots. And as I said before in the previous lecture, I try to show the hands of the sculptors because I think they're so wonderful to look at. The work here is obviously the kiss. It is so intimate and so powerful. It is a piece that where the two people actually blend together in some sort of form. Falling in love is a universal thing, and I think that this beautiful sculpture really portrays that. There are so many poems and letters and paintings about the qualities of love. But this kiss, where they've actually seemed to almost to have merged, is extraordinary. And this is the piece here at the Nasher. As you can see, a wonderfully formal block-like shape, very powerful. The articulation of the figures is there, but it's not overly dramatic. It's simple lines and simple forms. And if you note in the identification, it doesn't say, it says it's made out of plaster. Plaster, why would he do that? Well, he had so many demands for this work that he had to start producing it quickly, and plaster was a way for him to do that. This work represents that moment of culmination, and I can see a lot of Cycladic, which is early Greek art, which is basically shapes and forms in this work. It is crying out to be touched, but of course we can't do that. We're going to just take a moment to breathe again as we begin a personal exploration of the Brancusi kiss. And I want you to carefully notice some of the ways in which this work is showing the intimacy of that relationship. So take 3 breaths. Close your eyes if you want. Center your mind. Oh, no, I got excited too soon. Sorry about that. The kiss is on view right now in the National Gallery, so I encourage you to come down. I hope you enjoyed that. I never get tired of looking at the kiss. I become so intensely involved in the merging of the eyes and the lips and the way these two beings touch each other. They're simple forms, but they are so meaningful and articulate the wonderful compassion and love of this embrace. You can see here 2 views of the embrace. There's a male and a female side to it. And in the beginning, when I first started looking at these, it was hard to discern all of that. but their body forms are distinctly different in a very, very subtle way. Here we're looking at the two embraces, and you can see that arms of one of the male are thinner as they reach around and grab the female, and the female, well, his are thicker, excuse me, and hers are thinner. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to think about relationships and the ability for all of us to try something, you know, think about that merging of mind and body, the spirituality that's going into this. As we begin to connect with this object, you can think about your own relationships. The total embrace of these is a witness to the sweet love and affection that these two individuals have. The original was made for a tomb, not this particular version of it, in Montparnasse, and we're going to see an image. Now we're looking at the hair, and you can see definitely on the right, on the left is the male figure with the long strands of hair going down to the very base of the sculpture. And, sorry about that. And on the male, you don't see that interaction going on. It is exciting to see that it is, his hair is short, but the fingers are different. Begin to look at those more carefully. Oh, we're not. There we go. Now you can see the length and width of the fingers are slightly different. The ways in which that they couple over the hand, the hands couple, the way they touch the hair is different. Very subtle, but very important to notice. It's just like you, when you, it's almost like watching the lovers begin the embrace and move around, making it happen. As we back away again, we begin to see the lovers in the beautiful light of the National Galleries change their forms. One of the things I wanted to mention is that Anna and I took photographs of the kiss on different days. And when I went to put the PowerPoint together, mine were all almost slate gray black, like the slate in the Richard Long that we looked at last week. And it was Anna who came back in and rephotographed them. When I put them on the screen, I said, this is not how this sculpture looked. But we began to realize that it was the time of day. And that's one of the amazing things about looking and seeing mindfully. It's the time of day, it's the flicker of the light. What you see in the morning, taking a walk, is very different than what you see at night. And the same is true with this beautiful sculpture. As I promised, here is a view of it in Montparnasse. In the very center, you can see it on the grave site. And over here is a longer view of the grave. Now, if you go there, my understanding is that in 2018, it was covered up by the family who wanted to sell it. You can imagine a Brancusi sculpture would bring a fortune. And so they decided to cover up so more damage wouldn't occur, but the French government will not allow it to leave the country. So there's a dispute going on. So you'll see a bird box if you go there now. But you won't see one when you come to the Dallas Museum of Art. You'll come and see this amazing piece called The Beginning of the World, which was a gift to the Dallas Museum of Art by the Clark family. And it's probably one of the most important sculptures in the entire collection. It's in almost every major Brancusi exhibition, and it continues to be beloved. The story behind the piece is that it came to the museum that Mr. Clark came in after the DMA lost the first bond issue, and to try to build the new museum across the street. And he had the egg in it, and it was in a Pan Am bag, and he put the Pan Am bag on the desk of Harry Parker, and he said, we have to start again. We have to have a new beginning. And he unzipped it, and there was the Brancusi egg, which of course Harry Parker knew because he had been to their house. He said, I'm giving this to you, to the museum, so that we can restart the campaign. And again, the second campaign, as we all know, was successful, and in large part to the Clark's commitment to bring great art to the community. As we leave the Brancusi kiss, I'm just so happy to have this time to get you to really look at it. There were about 8 plaster casts made over Brancusi's life to fulfill all of the needs that he had, and several of them were sold. This was sold, and in fact was in a private home, and we anticipate that it was outside because there's water damage, which you would have seen in some of the earlier versions of it, earlier slides of it. So taking a moment and just reminding us of the steps of mindful observation, we're going to go to Richard Serra, a moment in time. And this powerful work, you may wonder, why is Bonnie showing this about nourishing relationships? Well, we've seen the idea of playfulness in Picasso and the great love and how a person changes, their manifestations from laughter to sadness to joy. We've looked in the kiss and seen the intimacy, the absolute love that can happen. With the Serra, I want you to experience something else. Richard Serra is probably one of the most important American artists who works in corten steel. His monumental works, and I do mean monumental, are epitome of mass and form. There are no pictures on these. You have to use your power of your imagination and the power of the material that's in front of you to fully appreciate it. He creates an experience very much the way Richard Long did, in that he wants you to become engaged with the piece by walking around it, by walking through it in many cases. He's a man of action, and his pieces demonstrate it. You can see in the garden today, and it will be there for a long time, this wonderful My Curves Are Not Mad, which is this overwhelming physical presence is really carried on in so many different ways in the garden. And it says, stop and look at me. After all, it's almost 40 feet long and 13 feet high. But not only look at the power of my front, which is confronting you, but what's this? I could peek in there. I could see something new. Am I allowed to go in there? Well, yes, the Nasher has given you a pathway so that you can crawl through the corten steel and truly experience it in new ways. So now, like we've done before, remember we're going to clear our mind with 3 breaths. And when you're looking at the Richard Serra, think about those elements of the mindful observation, of scanning, of attending, finding a particular place you want to look at, of connecting it with new ideas and new information. And then how do you emotionally or physically respond to it? So here we go. Let's see, is that? We're going to start the video. I think it's so fascinating. The way those arcs of steel come around and embrace you and actually envelop you when you go on the inside so that you physically disappear from other things. Cortend is a type of steel that was made so that it doesn't rust, and it is intended this is actually his intention, is to make the pieces push against each other. And these are slides I've taken of the Serra on different days when I've been down at the Nasher getting ready for these talks. And what fascinates me when I go through it is the change in light and the change in the curve. It takes a while. When you walk through the aperture, it's about light and darkness. It's about the void and the fulfillment. That's just like relationships. You know, it's about holding hands and separating. I think a lot about the Serra is about two separate beings coming together and interacting through the tension of the curve and the light and the darkness. It's not intended in any way in his mind that way, but it's the way I experience it, which is important and meaningful to me. On another day, when the light was more filtered and there was more glow to it, you can see what the shadows did, which I found fascinating. So talking about light and darkness made a huge difference this day. I have hundreds and hundreds of images of the Nasher's Richard Serra, largely because for me, when I attend to it, I sometimes attend to a specific area, or when I connect with it, like I do with light, it changes my whole experience for the day. And here we're going to look at some close-ups of the Cortend steel. As I mentioned earlier, it's steel alloys that are used in outdoor construction, largely because they are designed to eliminate the need for painting. This is a good thing, and they age beautifully on their own. So here are some details going up closely, looking at their tremendous variations in rust and reds and dark colors as you imagine it. Another thing that happens is the way it reflects light. And this was one late afternoon when I was down here, and you can see the filtering images through the trees. It looks like an abstract painting, but actually it was the light coming through the arborological sections up above, and it made this, you know, kind of intense piece on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, excuse me, right-hand side. I'm dyslexic. Another thing that happened to me when I was here was, as I said, really noticing the variations in the Cortend steel, was to see the way it had weathered over time with rain and with the moisture coming up from the sprinklers one day, and how it rose up as a way different, which is slightly different than when the rain comes down on it. It's a fascinating piece, but it's also about that tension. He works with with a wonderful engineer who helps him to figure out the ways in which the Cortend steel can bend. A lot of it's done, imagining of the bend, imaging of the bends is done on computers today, and they are standing there, you know, held up in the garden for you to enjoy. So don't miss it. It looks massive, and to a lot of people like something you could just walk on by, but to me it's a canvas of ideas and imagination, of experiences with myself, and as I reflect on it, and of experiences I can remember taking other friends down here to the garden, and they say, "What is that?" And that's my favorite question. It's a lot of ideas and images. This is a great quote by Richard Serra, which I think really exemplifies how he feels about working in steel. The images on the left are ones from the Dia beacon, which many people in the audience probably have seen. It's an entire room of these ellipses that turn around, and you can walk into and around and through. It's imaginatively like going through mazes. And of course, over in Fort Worth, we have their very famous piece that stands outside. And my favorite part, of course, is going inside and taking photographs of the light coming down. And again, you can see the tremendous variations in colors. The Nasher has another wonderful piece by Richard Serra. It's not up frequently because it wobbles. The corten steel plates are just leaning against each other very precisely, and if people touch it, it could lose its balance. Not a good plan. Over at the DMA, and this is on view, they would welcome you to come and see in their sculpture garden another Richard Serra, which is just shows the way he deals with balance and these massive forms and volumes against precariously leaning towards each other on that one pipe. Next week, we're going to be moving from Richard Serra to playfulness, and so I wanted to include this view of the Miro because he'll be in the center of our conversations next week. Just to review today, nurturing relationships. Why do it? Well, there are lots of ways to do it, and we covered some of these in our conversations today. Smiling, loving, having a sense of humor, being intimate, being pushing and pulling against each other, cultivating independence. All of these are great things to do. In our opportunity to have a conversation in just a minute, I want you to share with me how you nourish your relationships. Mindful observation, just to remind you how important it is in a meditation practice or just a practice of your own. It brings so many things to being in a good relationship, but also you have to take action. You cannot just passively be in that relationship. You need to do something about it. And if you do participate actively, there are so many health benefits that can come your way, not just improving mood and empathy and compassion, but also your emotional regularity, not getting so frightened or so angry. And very importantly, it develops your memory. We've been over the mindful observation technique, and I just want to leave it here with you so that you can think about it this week as you go through your day and look at art, or come, very importantly, we want you to come to the Nasher and see the art in the garden right now. The garden is a wonderful place to be in and a wonderful place for this entire community. And I want to thank Jeremy Strict and Anna and the wonderful staff, especially Jed Morse, who helped with a lot of research. And Anna has done a great job with Lindsay James in production of these talks. And I hope you'll come back on the 21st, I think it is, in 2 weeks, to hear about playfulness and to have a rollicking good time with us in the garden. If you want to reach me, many people wrote to me last week, which was wonderful, and I want to encourage you to do that. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, please do so. My most recent post is about bamboo at the Nasher Gardens. And so it's a beautiful little post that tells you about a strip of land that's filled with bamboo and what I saw in it one day. So thank you, Anna, and thank you everybody for being with us.